Hello, this is my project 3 on Lolita, and my name is Ved Kaliotla. Mhm. Lolita is a novel by Vladimir Nabokov, a renowned Russian-American novelist, well known for his intricate literary effects and style of prose. It is told through the perspective of Humbert Humbert, a pseudonym, a European professor of French literature who emigrated to the United States around the 1950s. We follow his pedophilic obsession with the novel's namesake Lolita, whose real name is Dolores Hayes, as through unforeseen circumstances and social apathy, he becomes her legal guardian, leaving her unshielded from his twisted desires. Over the years, the novel has been published along with many covers, all varying in the images they depict. However, there appears to be a consistent trend with how the covers are often fail or don't even attempt to diligently and honestly convey the central themes of Lolita. In the worst cases, the covers promote the very depraved tendencies that Nabokov indirectly critiques in his book. The example of this novel is important to examine as it depicts how the forces of society can warp the meanings of pieces of art and media until they stand to be the very opposite of what they used to represent. The website covering Lolita is an excellent source to find every cover of Lolita that has been published globally. Using this source, I want to explore how the type of images adorning the covers of the novel have changed over the years. Initially, the covers of Lolita were comparatively plainly adorned. The first cover published by Olympia Press in 1955 contained only the name of the novel on a plain green page. Following covers might have had more descriptive images but remained relatively abstract or simple, but still in line with the contents of the novel. However, after 1962, the covers began to flip the narrative of the book on its head and describe Lolita in a more promiscuous light. So, what caused this change? The release of Stanley Kubrick's new movie adaptation of the novel has been perhaps the most prominent cause of the divergence, since it implanted the image of Lolita being the seductress in the novel and taking advantage of a weak minded Humbert Humbert. The adaptation also downplayed a lot of the more controversial elements of the film by raising Lolita's age to 16 and only implying the rampant sexual abuse that was prevalent in the novel. The adaptation of Nabokov's work is similar to how some critics reviewed it. For example, in her book titled Lolita, Un royaume au-delà des mers, Christine Rogert Bouvard has a review from author and playwright Robertson Davis that reads as follows. The theme of Lolita is not the corruption of an innocent child by a cunning adult, but the exploitation of a weak adult by a corrupt child. As the following black and white scenes from the movie show, Lolita is depicted in a dominant position between the two, which is often played off for laughs. While it is true that in the novel there are instances of Lolita taking advantage of Humbert Humbert's obsession over her, for every such instance, Humbert irrevocably alters the course of her life so that it better suits his needs, whether it be going on a quote unquote road trip for a whole year at the expense of Dolores' education to avoid law enforcement, or putting her in an all girls school so that she would be away from boys, which he saw as competition. It was clear Humbert valued his own interests first and foremost. This was the reality of the novel that was not conveyed through these explicit covers. One may ask what the author had intended the covers to be. In Batman's and Lewing's book, Lolita, the Story of a Cover Girl, there's an excerpt from the interview of Volkov in which he was asked the same question. He answered, pure colors, melting clouds, accurately drawn detail, a sunburst above a receding road with the light reflected in furrows and ruts. After rain, and absolutely no girls. Based on this description, it is clear to see that earlier covers were more true to this abstract vision of the novel's cover. So, what was the reason for this difference? One of the first reasons that Nabokov's novel is incorrectly represented by its covers is because of its complex subject matter. The story follows the post-mortem perspective of an unreliable narrator as he portrays the dismaying events in the novel through his academic lenses. In the fifth chapter of Lolita, Humbert says the following: I would have the reader see 9 and 14 as the boundaries, the mirror beaches and rosy rocks of an enchanted island haunted by those nymphets of mine and surrounded by a vast, misty sea. Between those ages limits, are all girl children nymphets? Of course not. Otherwise, we who are in the know, we lone voyagers, we nympholets, would have had gone long insane. It is made clear to the reader early on in the novel, and the reality described by the novel's protagonist, if you can even give him that title, and the actual reality experienced by the other characters is starkly different. In his article in the publication Comparative Literature, Jung highlights how Humbert's description of and writings on Lolita function like a photograph of a subject. While conveying the broad strokes of the description of Lolita, the identity of the subject photographed is still altered by the intent of the photographer, making it different from the original subject it aimed to capture. This specific intricacy was not captured by most readers when the novel was published. Furthermore, this discrepancy was enlarged due to Stanley Kubrick's 1962 film, which disregarded the plot of the novel entirely. Kubrick's heart-shaped glasses-wearing, lollipop in mouth, teenage seductress image of Lolita is what has persisted onto the modern day, not the Dolores Haze created by Nabokov. The second reason for the discrepancy was because of the mixed incentives that publishers were faced with before designing a cover for the novel. As mentioned earlier, because a lot of readers fail to pick up on the hidden meaning of the text, either unintentionally or because of rooted prejudices. And in essence, victim blamed Lolita, a prepubescent girl, for the occurrences in the novel. Batman and Leving write in their book titled Lolita, The Story of a Cover Girl, that fidelity to the novel's narrative has not been high on the list of publishers' concerns. And Durham writes in her book, The Lolita Effect, operates Lolita operates in a corporate commercial sphere. The, lead, the Lolita effect is driven by profit motives, indicating that there is a link between the sexualization of Lolita and the sales of the edition of that edition of the novel. Furthermore, given Kubrick's film imprinted a lasting image of his version of Lolita onto the general public, it became in the publisher's best interest to cater to this incorrect perception of Lolita instead of working to correct it. This can be seen as book covers after 1962 often reference Kubrick's imaging of Lolita with heart-shaped glasses or with lipstick or lollipop in hand. In her article titled How Would the Publishing Industry Respond to Lolita Today? Author Jenny Minton Quigley details her experience witnessing the publishing of the first American edition of Lolita through her father's publishing company, G.P. Putman's Sons. In this article, she writes, first published in the US on August 18th, 1958, Lolita was an instant bestseller, despite or because of the fact that Orwell Prescott in the New York Times described it as a repulsive highbrow pornography, a review that was like music to my father's ears. The scandal and controversial nature of Lolita made for great material for generating press through scathing reviews of the novel. And publishers, like Quigley's father, jumped on the opportunity to play up the supposed pornographic nature of the text in order to generate sales for the novel, inadvertently establishing in the minds of the public that Lolita was a novel that was made to contain pornography between its pages. This discrepancy has extended its reach beyond the covers of Nabokov's novel. In the 21st century, it is not uncommon to see actresses or singers being depicted in Lolita esque imagery, or brands using Kubrick style depictions of the characters in their marketing. For example, these advertisements for perfume in the first and second images are a clear example of Lolita esque imagery. And it's not limited to the English speaking world. The Lolita aesthetic is fairly famous and prominent in Japanese fashion, as it entails women dressing in a cute manner, as can be seen in the third image here. Though deriving most of its inspiration from the Victorian era, the nomenclature of the aesthetic, along with its focus on looking prepubescent or girlish, is due to the influence of Lolita. Lolita serves as an example of how rooted prejudices and capitalistic incentives can completely alter the meaning of art and literature, and reminds authors and readers to reflect on how we interpret the works we consume. And these are all the sources I used in my research. And I would like to give one final special thanks to my friend Anya Bindu for introducing me to this book and making me realize how questionable people can be. Thank you.